Will he? Won't he? It's had more ups and downs than a noughties rom-com, but at last, he's finally committed. Stags boss Nigel Clough has signed on for 2 more years, the club have confirmed today, just in time for the players to report back for pre-season training. So with that in mind, we thought we'd do a little bit of pre-season training of our own and give our live reaction to Nigel Clough staying on for 2 more years. As always on the show, for the fans, by the fans, we want you to have your say on your team. So get involved in the live stream, in the comments right now. Let us know your thoughts. Who are you pleased that we've signed so far? Where would you like us to improve? And just how far do you think Nigel Clough can take us as the journey very much continues? This is the Mansfield Matters Podcast, the show for the fans, by the fans. Welcome to a pre-season update. Hello and welcome back to the live Mansfield Matters shows. It's been a long time since we've been live. Not a long time, though, since we've been on our little studio doing our pre-recorded bits for our YouTube channel. If you want to watch any of those as reflect on all of the signings apart from the latest signing, more on that later, you can head over to our YouTube channel right now and give those a little view. We thought, though, because it's Nigel Clough and because the players are back in pre-season training and because we're so fed up of just sitting on the sofa sweating, we thought we'd get in front of the laptops and have a bit of a chinwag. And I'm delighted to say that joining me for the next half an hour to talk all things Clough, all things pre-season, is my old mucker, Clive Parkin. How are you, Clive?
Good evening, Craig. Good evening, everybody. I'm happy to be here, although I'm rather warm.
It is rather warm, isn't it? It's, mind you, though, I have to say, I don't think it's probably as warm as what the players would have been in training today, because day one of pre-season always means running your whatsits off.
I'd have been dead by lunchtime.
Oh dear, they look like they was enjoying themselves on the photos, though, didn't they? That they've put on so far.
They look fit enough, and Clough commented on it as well, so it's good news, really.
Yeah.
Even though there seems to be that whenever anyone has a birthday, they bring a bag full of cake.
Yeah.
Is that part of the pre-season training, do you think?
I have to say, I agree with Will Evans on that. He made a little bit of a comment, didn't he? Happy birthday, Will, by the way. He said, why is it that on your birthday you're the one that brings the cakes in? Surely there should be a dedicated snack bringer. The team club in all the money and the captain buys all the cakes and the sweets.
Wherever I've worked, Craig, when it's your birthday, if it's a working day, you buy cakes or sandwiches or whatever. So it's not just footballers.
I think they've got it all wrong. It's your birthday. You should not be the one shelling out. But anyway, more on that later, I'm sure. Right, let's delve into the news, shall we, that we're here to talk about. As always, if you want to have your say on your team, if you're brand new to the live streams, have your say in the live feed comments right now, and we might just talk about it as the show goes on. Right, first, though, let's bring ourselves to the attention of why we're actually here tonight, and that is the fact that Stags boss Nigel Clough has signed a new contract, as you can see on the club's website, mansfieldtown.net. If you want to go and have a look at that, you can do so. So let's have a little read of the statement, shall we, that the club put out earlier. Mansfield Town are delighted to announce that manager Nigel Clough has signed a new 2-year contract at One Call Stadium. Under his tenure, Mansfield Town secured promotion to Sky Bet League One in 2023-24 and subsequently retained its place in the third tier of English football for the first time in over 21 and 35 years, respectively. Owners John and Carolyn Radford said, "We have thoroughly enjoyed working with Nigel in the past 4.5 years and are delighted to announce he is extending his stay at One Call Stadium. The progress that the club has made during his time as manager is unparalleled in the modern era at Mansfield Town, and we feel that we're building something special with Nigel at the helm. He's a man of principle and integrity, and his drive, determination and will to win for Mansfield Town is relentless. Nigel has helped us foster a remarkable spirit within the club and is someone whom the supporters connect. We will continue to offer all the support we can to help him and his staff in our pursuit for progress. Initial reactions, Clive, then to that statement which the club have shared today, that Nigel Clough has signed a new 2-year contract.
Well, first things first, it's no surprise. I think it's been a very, very badly kept secret. But I'm delighted, personally. I think most reasonable fans will be. It's a continuation of the journey. It makes Mansfield a little bit unusual as well, in that we're entrusting the management team for a good number of years with this contract. And don't forget, it's not just Nigel Clough that's signed on for 2 years; it's the entire team behind him. Yeah,
that's a big talking point for me. The fact that it is the staff as well. We'll come to that in just a second, but I want to talk about the length of the contract first and foremost, because I think when we were discussing it towards the back end of last season, there was a little bit of uncertainty over how long Nigel would give us. There's always been that little bit of doubt whether or not he would stay as manager. He's made no secret of the fact over probably the last 2 years, maybe even 3, that his wife wants him to retire and put his feet up on the patio and get the gardening done and all of that sort of stuff. So we were perhaps thinking it would be a 1-year rolling retaining deal, as was his contract last year, of course, which was an automatic trigger from that promotion season. So to have it down there for 2 years, Clive, I think really gives us that footing to try and progress now as a club and try and move forward.
Yes, I think it's a very positive thing to do, both from the manager himself and the club. Because I don't think they necessarily would have started off on the assumption of a 2-year deal, but I think they've worked on it. That's why it's taken so long. I think there are a number of conditions attached to this, one of which will be Clough getting the right budget, I'm sure. And for him to extend it by 2 years, I think that's probably, I mean, I'm no expert, it's probably the last job he's going to have in football.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, he's got no desire to go elsewhere. He's in my money, he's probably had offers to go elsewhere during his tenure at the club. Most notably, probably Burton have probably come sniffing again when they were looking for a new manager on a few occasions. But he seems committed to the project he's building here. I think in his entire footballing managerial career, he's never really had that desire to up and leave a club halfway through a job. It's only sort of circumstance which has taken him from club A to B to A to B to C or whatever. And I think the position that he's in now, it's a good area for him. He's certainly built something. He's got a good relationship with the owners. And I think what it does is it gives him time to focus and say, look, the next stage of my project is trying to establish us. If you go back to when he was first appointed, he sort of made it clear, didn't he, that we had 3 objectives, which was to survive in League Two in that terrible COVID season when in the Graham Cochran era, to then revamp the squad and sort of balance the books a little bit more, and then to push on and gain promotion. Well, we achieved all those 3 objectives. So his objectives, again, if you're looking to sort of mirror what we did, would be to stay in League One, to overhaul the squad and trim the budget accordingly, and then to try and push on. Well, we're certainly in the middle of that second phase at the moment now, aren't we?
Yes, and he's not been ruthless. He's not been reckless, rather, with the club's money, has he? I mean, it seems to me that they've been very, very good at getting deals for players with no price ticket, and that doesn't necessarily, paying a lot of money for a player doesn't necessarily make them work either. So I think by and large we've done quite well out of the players that the club has signed on a permanent basis. Not quite so much with some of the loans, I guess, but that's always a risk. And the thing about a loan, you're taking a very small risk. But a loan that doesn't work out at one club can often work out better at another. It's just how these things go. It's about who they're playing who they're playing with, and what methodology they use for servicing that player. So I'll be interested to see how young Wayne does it to Port Vale on that. But no, I think what we've got here is a very positive indication that the club is still building, and that they don't see 1 year as being enough to get to the next stage. I think what we're looking at here is an ambition to go up another promotion, probably next in the second year of the extension. It'd be nice if it was the first year, wouldn't it?
It would.
No guarantee it'll be either, is there? But I think that's the logic.
Yeah, I think what we've seen so far, and I think this is testament to maybe the way Clough and his staff handle the management of the club is, and it's spread across to the supporters as well, I think probably 95% of the time, is the word patience. We have seen it so often where things don't go quite right, so we chop and change, and then we sort of set ourselves back. You know, that threads all the way back to Steve Evans when he sort of came in. And I think the Radfords have learned from that as well. It's quite interesting listening to Carolyn when she goes on all these different podcasts. She's not been on the podcast yet, but the invitation is always open. And
she probably doesn't feel quite ready for this.
Who is? Let's be fair. Who is? I think one thing that she's constantly said is about how they're learning the Clough to be a little bit more patient. And you saw that almost in Clough's first full season, the year we got to the playoff final. We'd got to exactly the same position as we'd got under David Flitcroft. In fact, we'd gone one more in getting to a final. We lost it, but we didn't sack the manager. We didn't overhaul the squad like we did previously. And then what that enabled us to do was to push on and build. All right, it took another 2 seasons to get to where we wanted to be, but that's bound to happen. But sometimes patience is a virtue, and I think when you look at Mansfield Town as a fan base, as an area, and as an infrastructure, as a club, you have to say that if we were to go up next season, it would be great, but we might not be ready. But if we were to go up in 2 seasons' time, I have a real strong feeling down in my gut that we will have pretty much all the foundations in place in terms of playing staff, in terms of off the pitch stuff, capacity, all of that, the stuff that comes with it, to then go on and try and survive in the Championship and establish ourselves as a stronger, bigger club than where we started out, 4 or 5 years ago at the start of this journey.
Yeah, I think the journey itself is best measured from the end of COVID. Because whatever we were trying to do up to that point got sideswiped by COVID, as indeed every club did. But coming back from that, and as soon as we started having fans in the ground again, if you look at any of the methods of measuring of progress, it's been an upward trajectory in terms of points gathering, fans buying tickets. The whole thing has moved consistently to where we are now. And the only thing that's slowing it down a little bit at the moment is the ground capacity. So Bishop Street will probably bring about 1,000 seats when it's finished. That will help a little bit. But there's got to do, again, part of thinking about the 2-year plan, there's got to be another phase there, hasn't there? Otherwise, we are still going to be a very, very modest club. And I think we should never lose sight of the fact we're a small club in a small town. We should retain that modesty. We can't do a Wrexham, we can't do a Birmingham. But what we can do is a Burton.
Yeah, I think that's a good model to sort of aim for as well. I'd be very happy with that as a supporter, to flirt with the Championship. I'm under no disillusion to think that apart from Football Manager or FIFA, that Mansfield will ever survive and thrive in the Premier League. I'm happy to be where we are, to push and to compete, and that's all that you want as a supporter. So we're certainly on track for doing that. Let's take a little look into Nigel Clough's press conference then today. He's given an update. He's reunited with Steve-O and given some words. You can watch that on the club's YouTube channel or Facebook page if you want to in full right now, but we've got some takeaways from it. So let's have a little quick look at a few of his key talking points then. And the first comment for me, Clive, is what we've sort of alluded to already. Everybody's committed to the next 2 seasons and looking forward to maintaining the progress we've made in recent seasons, trying to establish ourselves in League One and then go beyond. So already the foundations are there. The ambition is sort of quietly humming away. But I think what's critical is, like you alluded to earlier, not just the fact that Nigel Clough has signed a new 2-year deal, but his backroom staff, those people who play a real key part in this movement and this club culture which we've built, have also stayed on board.
Yeah, and I think a lot of fans need to remind themselves about this. They talk about sometimes the lack of money being spent by the owners investing in the squad. You've got to include the management team in that squad. And I think the investment they must have made for this 2 years to keep the Clough gang together is a significant cost. Far more than many clubs in League One are paying out for their management team. I'm pretty sure of that. So that's a commitment that sometimes fans don't think about.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think because that is a big outlay as well. And we're also putting money into the training ground and various other things as well. Speaking of player transfers and sort of moving on to the next phase, Clough has also said, I think we were at the end of a cycle at the end of last season where players who'd done for us, but it was time to move on. I think with the loans going back and everything, to bring in 8 or 9 is a good number to replace them. And we're very pleased with the ones that have come in so far. 6 signings so far. And I think he's right in what he says as well, Clive. You know, we all felt, especially, you know, January onwards, that we'd probably reached the end of the line with a lot of players, not mentioning any particular names. But you have to, you know, evolve to move forward sometimes. It's just the nature of the beast of football.
Yeah, it is. I always worry a little bit when there's an enormous amount of new signings in the summer, because that means a whole group of lads having to learn to be together. And I think the balance is always important, keeping some of the mainstay in place, and the maturity of those players is important when you're bringing new people in. So we've all seen clubs sign 10 and 12 players every season, and they're starting from scratch each time. And I'm hoping that the Clough blend this time that allows us to start with more confidence.
I think it does, and I think what they've done so far is really smart business. It's interesting to hear what Clough sort of said regarding fees and everything. He basically said the players that we've brought in so far are excellent players. They're available on free transfers. We've not needed to spend any money. If we need to, we basically can. But we're not in the business of spending money for the sake of spending money. If there's options available out there that are as good as, then why not, you know, pursue them? And it's a tactic which Clough is employed pretty much during his entire tenure as Mansfield manager, and he's very rarely got it wrong.
Yeah, and everybody makes mistakes, so you've got to allow for that. And there are going to be, if you look back, there are always going to be things that could have been done differently and better, or not at all. But I have a lot of confidence in the overall quality of management now, that they can find decent buys. Let's remember, for most players at our level now, it's not about fees, it's about salaries, it's about paychecks, you know. And obviously, what it does do, if we're not spending lots of money on transfer fees, they can afford to pay, you know, better than average salaries for this level, I guess.
That's the key point. And, you know, we talk about, you know, a good culture. There's definitely a theme which has evolved. Every single player which has been brought into the club so far has signed a 2-year deal, probably with options as well, which is pretty much what all the old squad, if you like, had, which we took options upon and things like that, which is good to see that we're sort of building that rapport and going with that bit of planning, etc., as well. So interested as well. Keep your comments coming in. Kerry's just popped up. Speedy recovery, Kerry. I know that you've been out of action for a while. Hopefully you'll be back on your feet sooner rather than later, and able to stalk number 3 from the stands of all over the country yet again. Adam says, I think the management and backroom team buy into the project ahead of the pay packet, which I think is a fair deal as well, because, you know, we are a shrewd club when it comes to money sometimes, and we have splashed it. But I think what we do is we cultivate a culture, a good culture, where sometimes the salary, it comes second to the job. You're not chasing the money, you're chasing job satisfaction. I think that sometimes can be a big factor, especially in looking at some of the players that we've brought in as well, if you transfer it to the playing squad side of things.
It's a difficult one to square, isn't it? Because, you know, if you're good at buying players and selling them on, you can make a lot of profit for your club. You know, if you can make sure that you buy young players and get them to the next level, and then some big club comes and sniffs them out. I can only think about Ollie Watkins in that respect. Apparently, when the fat boy was in charge, he made an offer for him when he was at Exeter, and apparently Exeter wanted 400k, and we went to 300 or something. It could all be pipe dream stuff, this, but that was a story I've heard on a number of occasions. And of course, it wasn't long after that that Brentford paid $1 million for him, and not long after that Aston Villa paid 28 million for him. You know, I'm not saying we'd have hung on that long. I think if someone had thrown £1 million anywhere near us, we'd have sold him. But that's, if you can do that, that's great. We don't do that, and we're not breeding anybody yet out of the production line of young players. So we have to find the balance. And the balance, quite obviously, is getting senior players who perhaps looking towards the last season or two of their careers, and they're looking for a reasonable paycheck and no great movement in terms of where they live. And then you've got players, I'm thinking of Will Evans, who have made progress but need to move to the next level. And relocation to them is a natural thing to do. It's getting that blend right. And I think there's some science in this, but it's not an exact science.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's continue looking at what Nigel Clough has said in his press conference today then as well. He's given a few little tidbits to pick up on. First and foremost, anyone that's seen some of the photos may have spotted some familiar faces, one of which could be Aidan Flint, who is, according to Clough, training with us to tick over as he hasn't yet got anything sorted. So I don't think there's anything to read into that, Clive, in terms of we might look to pick Flint up again. No. It's literally just a favour for an old face. I think Clough would do that for anyone.
It is. He won't play again for the Stags, but I wish him luck wherever he goes. He's not done. He's in credit at this.
Yeah, he certainly is.
But he's also quite an expensive player by comparison to other players in our squad.
Yeah, very, very true. And I think we've sort of seen that in Sweeney as well. We've brought in a player who's younger who can do both the Flint and probably the Kilgore role as well. So one for the price of two, if you like. Elsewhere, Clough has said that there's been a lot of rumours about Lee Gregory and him signing for that horrible team who we have to play in that Sports Energy Cup thing. Lee Gregory is not training yet. However, he is at the training ground. He's doing some rehab with his knee. We want to give him every opportunity to come back. He's due back on the grass next week. And from what I can gather, Clive, from what Nigel Clough says, again, just sort of reading between the lines, it's very much a case of he probably is going to re-sign. 99% he's re-signed, but that 1% is before we sign on the dotted line and dry the ink, cross the I's, dot the T's, and all of that sort of stuff. We want to make sure his knee's in right shape, because the last thing we need to do as a club is give someone who's clearly on a big wage because of his experience and what he brings to us a big wage and shell that out and then register him and then him be missing for 6 months. We've been bitten by that last season.
Yes, I mean, an injured Gregory has absolutely no value to the football club. And it's a very difficult one because you want to be loyal to a player that injured himself playing for the football team, that was doing an awful lot of good when he was fit, and also helping out his forwards strike partner in doing that. And the loss has been obvious during the struggle we had this year. A lot of that is down to missing a Gregory up front. But if I'm honest, I have some anxiety about whether he'll come back or not. But we'll see. We certainly need to find another striker from somewhere to add to the
anxiety over whether his knee will hold up, or anxiety over whether or not he'll be tempted to go elsewhere.
I just think he's susceptible to damage now, and I mean it's a very awful injury he got. And quite honestly, he's at the wrong age now to want to invest in another year of him. He's not Oates. You can't say, well, he's still a young player. He's not a young player anymore. In fact, if we're being candid, if he was fit, this would probably be his last season.
Yeah, probably.
So, there's a limit to how much a club should invest in a player like him. And if he's hesitating whether to sign or not, my inclination there is say, well, thank you ever so much, but we'll wish you well. Get another striker.
Personally, I think it's the other way around. I don't think he's hesitating to sign. I think we're hesitating to sign. I think we want to get the injury situation right. But
well, that's fair enough. But if we're waiting for him to sign or waiting for the fog to clear before he signs, it's a gap in the team that hasn't been filled. Sooner or later, you have to call that.
I don't think we can wait too long. I think we are still in the window.
The players that might be available won't necessarily be available in another 6 weeks. That's
exactly
the trouble.
Well, speaking of players elsewhere as well, and another one is Dom Dwyer. Clough has said, I think we're getting close. We'd like to get him back. He's had a number of offers from US clubs, but he wants to essentially stay in the UK. Hopefully we'll get something sorted at the end of this week, early next week. On Dom Dwyer, Clive, before we come on to the transfers elsewhere, great prospect for us, really, really good last season, gave us that little bit of boost that we needed at the right critical time, scored some good goals for us. Now, I always felt during his time with us last season that had he had a pre-season under his belt, he would be a real handful in this division, especially with the right partner given time to develop. No secret that he's highly thought of over in the US, but as Clough has sort of alluded to in his press conference again, he's got a young baby, which he's had, in the last couple of months or so. He wants to now stay and settle in the UK, and Mansfield seems like a good option for him.
Yeah, and I think what we saw from him towards the end of last season was a player that we bought in a, not a panic, but certainly in a panic situation. And we asked an awful lot of somebody who hadn't played football on this island for a long, long time to hit the grass running. What he brought was energy and physicality. That's something we were missing. And towards the end of the season, he banged in, is it 4 goals?
Yeah, I think he got 4, yeah.
So the ingredients are there, but you're right. I think what he needs is more time along with his colleagues to develop. And that starts.
And speaking of other players to sort of round up what we've got, Clough has sort of said that one younger lone player is close, and there'd be 2 more ideally after that. Looking predominantly to add forward players. He thinks defensively we're done. Might look to add a defensive midfielder if one comes available. But I think, he's definitely right. We need to add some forward players. That's definitely what we're lacking now. And I think 3 or 4 more signings would pretty much do us. And if we can get, ones that that fall under that age bracket as well, but have got a bit of experience, so we don't have to register them, that will give us a little bit of movement and flexibility there as well.
Because it keeps a few options open, doesn't it? I've not seen anything to look at. I only saw what was put out on video today. But the squad looked incredibly fit for a team coming back off of their summer break, and Oates seemed to be in good spirit. So we can all hope that he's fit enough to play a part as well. The club see him regularly, and of course the club's medics have seen him more than you'd like to think they should have done. But he certainly has retained the club's loyalty to him. What we now need is to see him come and repay some of that on the field.
Yeah, very much so. Lots of interesting stuff to come. Then I'm sure we'll all be keeping an eye on the training videos as they come out over the next few days, etc., etc., etc. And of course, Clive, the countdown now starts to proper action, because exactly this time next week, if I've got the kickoff time right, the whistle should be blowing away at Retford.
Yeah. It's our annual trip to Retford. Get there early if you want anything from the snap cabin, because the service struggles when we're all in there. And the other thing to remember about Retford is car parking becomes a nightmare if you don't get there early. So, but I think it's a good starter, isn't it? It's a right level of challenge, and I'm looking forward to all of the pre-season stuff. I'm not going to see him play at Sligo, but it's an interesting thing to take the camp to Republic of Ireland, which is an interesting movement. They did Scotland last year.
They did, yeah, and then Portugal the year before that, yeah.
Portugal the year before that. I think it's an interesting one, and there'll be a number of Stags fans go, because they always do.
Would love to. I'd love to go to Ireland, but I think like
you need to have 3 or 4 days. That's the trouble. Nobody's got it at short
exactly.
Notice,
That's the problem. And to be fair to Steve-O, in the press conference, he did sort of mention in the question to Clough, which was more of an address to the fans really rather than a question, was the fact that it was a very last-minute friendly. I think we were due to play somebody else, but had issues with arranging a game at their ground or what have you.
Well, they were going to play against Galway, of course, but typically of a Southern Ireland situation, they'd forgotten where the pitch was. So they had to move it to Sligo. But seriously, it's a good thing. It's an English-speaking nation. It's not too far to travel. It's relatively cheap when you get there. If you like Guinness, you're in heaven. It's good. I'd like to have gone, but I don't think I'm going to be able to pull it. Oh, well, I know I can't pull it.
Yeah, it's such a short space of time, and I think I've got my eye on a little few days in Devon as well when we play Exeter, because that's sort of on a Saturday in August, which is that's fallen kindly to us.
It's a nice place to
indeed.
Be.
So looking forward to that.
Definitely an overnighter for us.
Definitely, Mansfield Matters on tour, maybe.
Yeah. Crazy golf.
Love it. God, I love crazy. Have you ever played foot golf? That's brilliant. I love it. We'll have to do it.
I came across it in Jersey last summer. There was a one of these adventure golf courses which we like to go on, and adjacent to it, they'd built a football golf game. Yeah. It's really good.
Well, we'll have to take Mansfield Matters on tour, and we'll go down to Devon and Exeter for a few days. But before that, our focus is fully on Retford. Looking forward to seeing it. I think the entirety of the Mansfield Matters crew is going to Retford, as per every year, because we get bored. We say we're not going, then we get bored, so we do. So,
I've been itching for something to go.
So
I think there'll be, there always will be. There's a fair number of Mansfield fans there because, like us, they've been waiting for something to happen, and there'll be some new faces to see. And if they do what they've done in previous years, all of the squad will end up, all the squad that's fit will be there, even if they don't actually participate.
Yeah, they'll probably play 2 11s, to be fair. They usually do, don't they?
Yeah, and those that don't play, they'll be there for autographs and all that sort of stuff, and for people to stalk.
Indeed. Not looking at anybody. We're not talking about anybody in particular, are we, Kerry Lou? Absolutely.
Kerry Lou. No, did that slip out?
Sorry.
Kerry Lou, yeah. No, it's not Kerry Lou.
It's not. Also, other friendlies as well. Macclesfield away on the 12th of July. Now under a new manager. It's no longer going to be Robbie Savage because he's up sticks and gone to the Vegans. Oxford at home on the 22nd of July. And then Matlock away on the 29th of July as well.
I thought Robbie Savage had got an investment in
Macclesfield. But he's also got an investment in vegan sausage rolls, it would seem. So there we go.
Yeah, I'll give it 6 months.
I don't even give it that. Anyway, this is not Forest Green Matters, is it?
I like going to Macclesfield.
Not been for a long time, have we? Obviously, probably since the maybe playoff season.
Longer than that now.
I think early playoff season. I want to say early playoff season, probably.
I mean, the last time we went, they were in the depths of real financial woe, and there was nobody to open the gates when we got there, if I remember rightly, because they were relying on volunteers to run.
Yeah, that's right. So looking forward to that one. Good pre-season so far, and good signings as well. Mentioned at the top of the show that we've been doing these little YouTube shorts for when a new player has signed. We're not going to do them anymore. So if new players do sign now, we'll be talking about them in the podcast because this is pre-season update number 1, aka podcast number 1 of Series 9. So we'll be back with weekly podcasts and all of that stuff in between. So if you want to follow us, please do so. We're on all things social media at MTFC Matters. And as always, make sure you set your reminders to find out when we're next going to be live. And if you're listening to the audio version of this and you want to come and join us, then make sure you do and come and give a live show a watch. Plenty more to come as the season starts to unroll. Football is officially back. The players are back in training. Nigel Clough has signed a new contract. What more is there to say? Clive, thanks so much for joining.
There is something else to mention, Craig, before we shoot off, and that's the change of kit supplier.
I forgot. A new area, so to speak.
And a new era of area, Well, everybody's been saying get rid of Castor. The club's done it. Everybody said you need a better club shop. The club's done it. Everybody said you need more fan zonery. The club did it. Everybody's saying the Bishop Street stand needs to be brought back into play. The club's doing it. I've been one of the critics of the football club for being stagnant at times. I can't criticise them at the moment. In a modest way, they're doing everything they should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely agree. The only thing everybody's not saying is that Clough and the Radfords should do a podcast with us from the ground. I think everyone should start saying that because then the club will make you happy.
Yeah. Well, I think people would want to come on here, but they'd be frightened of being outshone.
By Jim.
So, but I'd like Caroline to come on. I think she it would give us a slightly different slant on what we're doing.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. As always, the invitation is always open.
We'd have to put a 5-second delay in, I think, to transmission, but there you go.
Well, we'll see. As always, the door is always open. It's been a good day. The players are back in training. Nigel Clough has signed a new 2-year contract, and the podcasts are very much back. Thanks so much to Clive for joining us. Thanks as well for you guys at home for watching the live feed. Really do appreciate your support. The countdown then is officially on to our first pre-season friendly away at Retford United, this time next week on the 8th of July. So far, Ryan Sweeney, Regan Hendry, Liam Roberts, Kyle Noyle, Kyle McAdam and Nathan Mariah Welsh have been added to the Stags camp. Will there be more faces between now and next week? Time will tell. But I'm sure there'll be new faces before we kick off at Burton in a few weeks' time. as the Stags, with 2 more years of Clough at the helm, look to push on and steadily build towards the next level. Championship Mansfield Town? Maybe that project has just begun. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure you follow us on all things social media to find out when we're next going to be live. And come and join us on the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield matters. Goodbye.